much has happened since I last saw you. I lost my hammer, like, yesterday, so that's still fresh. Then I went on a journey of self-discovery. Then I met you. Welcome to the Pixel Pop Movie Podcast. My name is Toby. This fortnight, there's no week for you. This fortnight, I'm joined with Lucas.
Hype for Thor.
And Jesse.
Hello.
Who's still recovering from a genitalia injury. This fortnight, we're not joined by Ethan, but it is his birthday today, so we're going to wish him a happy birthday. He's currently back in his home country of insert some sort of racist, horrible comment here that, we're not going to say, but you know what we mean.
Kiwi land.
Yes, and topic of conversation for this fortnight, being that we're so close to it, and just by the way our routine occurs, we'll miss it, is Halloween and Halloween-themed films. What you should be watching this Halloween and maybe what you shouldn't be watching. So we're going to prattle on about that for a little bit. But before we do all of that, we're going to do our regular news on what's been happening in movie and TV land. And to get us started with that, Lucas.
So we may as well get it out of the way because it's probably the biggest piece of news we've had in the past 2 weeks since we last been on here is the Star Wars trailer. Hype. I'm hyped for everything, man.
I've mentioned this before. Like, you're going to die of cardiac arrest before you're 40 because there's just going to be all these movie trailers one weekend and your poor body won't be able to handle it.
I think it's going to be
Comic-Con and just drop dead.
I was about to say, no, I think after Infinity War, I'll just be like, you know what, I'm happy. This is where it ends.
Time to leave now.
This is just how it ends.
He died with a smile on his face.
All I saw was Stan Lee.
Oh man, I already met Stan Lee and I didn't die, so I got a feeling I'm immortal.
Right. Okay. So do you know I have not watched that yet? I don't think I've watched it. Am I a bad person?
Star Wars trailer.
Yeah.
The new Star Wars trailer.
Yeah, I don't think I watched it.
It's pretty good. I would say if you want to go in blind without any story beats, probably don't watch it. Saying that it's a week.
No,
that's right.
I did watch it, and you're not supposed to watch it. That's right. I remember.
That's the reason you watched it, because you weren't supposed to watch it.
Exactly.
But yeah, there's a couple of I would say major story points. There's a couple of massive theories as well that have kind of come out from the trailer, and one of the big ones, which I can kind of get behind, is there's that whole dynamic between Rey and Kylo, and whose hand, who's Kylo Ren putting his hand out to, because it's all this convenient cutting. And the rumor is he's helping Leia escape from the the First Order invading the Rebel base,
right?
Or First Order base, or whatever they're called.
The Darth Vader fan base.
Yeah, no, the
giant floating helmet.
No, so they come looking for Leia. There's a new planet, and that's where they're all based off, because they're not on the planet they were on in Force Awakens. They've moved to another planet.
And then a new blowy uppy planet.
Yeah, pretty much.
So do you think they're going to kill the character of Leia Organa because obviously the actress has passed, or are they going to do a Fast and Furious kind of thing where she CG guys off into Happy Land?
I don't know, because they've already said that Leia gets a completed Leia's story arc in the film. They haven't changed it. So
right,
okay.
She could die, but in saying that though, it sounds like that Kylo might be saving her. So, yeah, and taking her away somewhere to protect her. So that could be something as well. Kylo then turns to the light. Could be the whole guilt thing from killing Han in the first movie.
Or he could go the other way and be like, right, apparently I have to kill my mum now to finally, fully go over to the dark side.
And then he has to kill himself to fully go over to the dark side.
And then he's got to come back to life and kill himself again to fully go.
He's been trying to slit his wrist with a lightsaber, but it doesn't work because it keeps cauterizing the wound.
Evanescence to go to the dark side.
And then he ascends into Darth Plagueis territory and then comes back as Snoke. What? That's
have you seen the new theory on who Snoke is? It's a classic.
I've seen it.
The
Stormtrooper smacked his head.
The Stormtrooper from episode 4, yeah.
Came back for revenge.
So good.
Actually, speaking of Snoke theories though, have you heard the one that's actually gotten a lot of traction from people?
In breaking news, Star Wars fans have tinfoil hat theories. Who knew?
No more Dr. Bimbo. No, there's this theory that was going around that Snoke is actually this like really old Sith. He was supposed to be a Sith that was like a basically like a Force vampire.
What?
And he's going to, the way he's sustained himself is by sucking the Force essence out of Jedi and Sith, and he's actually training Kylo up because he's going to he's getting him to like a certain like over 9,000 level of power,
so he can feed off him.
And then he's going to feed off of him, and that's why he's trying to draw Luke out, because he wants to feed off of him because he's like the most powerful Force user left.
So, all right, so let's just get this out of the way. I'm okay with big walking, groaning dogs in Chewbacca. I'm okay with giant slugs. I'm okay with an army of cloned robot bounty hunters, but I feel like
rabbits.
But I feel like space vampires are a little too much.
Well, vampire is it's not in the traditional sense. It's just a case of he's using the Force.
I get it. Like it was just more my line was just more of a joke of like, you know what, space vampires is probably where they might be jumping the shark.
Yeah, but see, no one laughed.
Yeah, because
someone out there did.
Yeah, there was that one person that laughed, and I will thank them.
We only get one person listening to the podcast, so you're being pretty presumptuous.
Pretty presumptuous that there's any audience, apparently.
Exactly. All right. So that's Star Wars, right?
Yeah. So like, again, hype as shit for Star Wars. I think that's going to be fantastic.
Totally not hype.
Yeah,
totally
it'll always stay hype.
Not hype.
And then moving away from like the galactic shit into something that's a bit more grounded in reality. They've just announced that Creed 2's going ahead, which is awesome. Like,
well, not only is it going ahead, I mean, we knew it was coming ahead, but there's been a change of director.
Well, there's that, but like, there was no real timetable on when they were going to get it started, and it looks like the ball's rolling now. That's kind of what I meant.
Yeah, well, it's interesting too, considering Stallone had no interest in going back to that character until he was approached with the script to the original Creed. And obviously now it's sort of it's rejuvenated his passion for it all, that to the point that he's now directing the sequel.
Yeah,
I think
correct.
that's going to be fantastic, to be honest.
I don't know, because I thought Creed was really well done.
It was really well done.
And I think a majority of that focus should be on Ryan Coogler.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's now going to be snapped up by Marvel, whether or not it's a timing thing and he can't get to Creed 2 because he's got something else in the pipeline for Infinity War or whatever the reason being, I feel like they should have waited until he was available to come back. Like, I don't know, like the last movie that Stallone directed was like one of the Expendables, right?
Yeah, I think
kind of like tells you everything you need to know. Like, I would much rather them wait for Coogler to come back, because I thought visually the first movie was incredible.
But that being said, Sylvester Stallone is a fairly competent director in his own right. I mean, he did direct Rocky.
I mean,
he has directed some great movies, but like, I'm talking in the sense of lately. Like, we can talk about how James Cameron was like visually T2 was incredible, but like, look what he's done lately. Like, it's
the Avatar.
Yeah, like all the Avatar movies. But who thought we'd go a podcast without talking about Avatar? Anyway,
right? Next thing you know, we'll be talking Punisher.
Oh no!
Oh yeah!
Oh no! But yeah, I feel like they should have waited for Coogler. But the other piece of news for Creed 2 is that they've announced that Dolph Lundgren's going to be coming back as Ivan Drago, and that it's going to be Adonis versus Drago in a grudge match. Because in the original films, for those who don't know, Adonis's father was killed by Drago in one of the matches. I feel like them revisiting Drago is going to be interesting, because like Lundgren still can go.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm pumped.
You're always there's nothing you're never hyped for. This is my point. You're in a perpetual state of hype.
Let's get to the next one then, because I'm definitely not hyped for Geostorm.
Never even heard of it.
Geostorm. So Toby and I watched the trailer for this when we did our trailer episode, and it looked like absolute dog shit.
Oh, this thing that I was like, actually, it's not that bad. I'll watch that.
Yeah, it's getting destroyed by the critics.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
It's so bad.
It can be.
Like
it's sort of like Sharknado. Like on your fifth bourbon, you're like, you know what? I'll do it.
Yeah, but I think the thing with Sharknado is that it's like intentionally funny. Like, it's not meant to be serious.
That doesn't excuse the fact that it's completely terrible and shit.
Well, this is
it's supposed to be intentionally funny, and it's just not.
Yeah. No,
Sharknado?
Geostorm is just like, everything that could go wrong goes wrong. There's like tsunamis and no, it's twisters or some shit. And,
Yeah.
So that's why it's called Geostorm.
Yeah.
Ah, there's the twist.
So clever. But yeah, to me, it just looks one of those, it literally just looks like one of those sit-down, mindless, disaster flicks, and like there's a time and a place for that, and I'm fine with that. And I mean, I'm not going to rush out and see it at the cinema by any stretch, but eventually it'll turn up on Netflix or whatever, and I'll sit down one night and I'll watch it, and I'll go, "Yep, that was pretty terrible, but it was okay."
Saying I'm not saying I have shitty taste in movies, but I'm eventually going to watch Geostorm.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched some terrible movies. It's good because if you only ever watched A+ movies, then you would have no comparison.
Exactly, and you got nothing good to talk about.
Yeah, you need to have sample all of the buffet.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like. I'm okay with watching like B and C grade movies, but like this doesn't even look like it's even close to those leagues.
Well, speaking of B and C grade, have you seen are we getting a 9/11 movie soon with Charlie Sheen?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh god, damn it.
Yeah,
I watched the trailer for that, and that is getting worse reviews than Geostorm.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, some of it's going to be just people rebuking the content, and that's predictable, and that's fine. Like, there's some people that are just going to go, I don't want to ever see a movie about that subject matter, because it's sensitive. It's sort of like doing it's like doing a movie about Auschwitz or something. Like, you're going to have a certain degree of kickback, right? That's inevitable. But at the same time, I would like...
Just to jump in.
No.
I was about to say, just to jump in there, because there's actually been a couple of 9/11 movies. One sec.
There has?
Yeah,
so
there was
Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close about 9/11.
I mean, I've seen documentaries, but I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing like a good 9/11 movie, only because it's the same as like doing a movie about World War One and Two. I mean, they're not exactly pleasant times in human history, but it's still interesting. And the point is, for the younger generations who obviously were born after it even happened, it's a way of knowing and remembering and understanding. I'm not sure I want Charlie Sheen for knowing, remembering, and understanding.
That's what I was going to say. Is like, I personally think anything's fair game, but I don't know what the fuck anyone was thinking.
If I was going to do a 9/11 movie, I would have it set up so that it was one of those sort of films where you're following, say, 6 lead characters and you're sort of seeing their individual stories on that day and how it leads up to
a Crash kind of thing.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like, and then all the stories sort of come together or whatever, and obviously, who makes it, who doesn't, kind of thing. Probably nobody, but
Brendan Fraser's like a hotel clerk.
See now you fucked it again.
Just by putting Brendan Fraser in it.
Brendan Fraser alone.
So there were a couple of...
Hollywood's already leaving him alone.
There's actually been a couple of 9/11 movies that have actually done fairly well. Not great, but it's done better than it should have. Which there was one literally called World Trade Center with Nick Cage, I think, where he was one of the firefighters.
Yeah, but again, Nick Cage. Why do we keep doing this? Nick Cage, Charlie Sheen...
And then there was another one that was called United 93, which was like a lot of like B-grade actors that were like in the plane that crashed in Pennsylvania. That one got a few good reviews from what I remember as well. Yeah, we'll go on to Jim and Andy. So this is actually really interesting. It's a Netflix documentary that's been made that's using all the behind-the-scenes footage of the Man on the Moon, which is the Andy Kaufman movie. Andy Kaufman movie starring Jim Carrey, and it looks interesting. Like, I've only seen like about half the trailer. I don't know. I can't remember why I only watched half of it, but from the bits and pieces that I've seen of it already, like, it looks like it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Man on the Moon, and when I saw this was happening, I was just so happy because I love the story of how that movie got made, and it's so cool to see a documentary about it. And
as well, like, wasn't there was some stuff that happened behind the scenes in the making of the movie too, wasn't there? Yeah.
So like a lot of this documentary is like behind the scenes footage that they didn't want to release because there was like studio infighting with Jim Carrey, and there was like kind of like Jared Leto level like method acting issues that happened back then that they were like not sure if they wanted to release information because it might tank the movie, even though the movie didn't do super well anyway.
Yeah, I think this documentary as well, from memory, was also being made that, like, this was going to be, like, they were actually thinking about doing a documentary. That's why they were filming everything behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So that after the movie came out, they'd be like, oh, and here's the story behind the famous film.
Yeah, I think that it was going to be, like, compiled, like, special features or something as well.
Yeah, so...
But it
Yeah,
looks great.
Have you seen anything for it yet, Toby?
Nah.
Yeah, I know with like a lot of the Netflix documentaries, like they tend to be fairly spot on and pretty good. So I'm really pumped. Like I'm really pumped for this.
But they also tend to lean to one side of an argument too.
Yeah, I can see that with Making a Murderer.
Yeah, that's a big one for that. Yeah,
Yeah, like, Making a Murderer definitely did that, but I don't know. I feel like this could possibly be objective because like there are lots of stories that we know that have come out of that movie. So
yeah, for sure.
Anyway, moving on to the next one. Last part we got mainly of like stuff that isn't superhero related, but they've released another image of Rami Malek as Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, I saw that.
Fuck, I'm like Bryan Singer.
Let me guess. You're hyped for this movie?
I wasn't. So I was not hype for Rami Malek as Freddie Mercury at all. But the more I'm seeing, the more I'm liking it. I just need to see a trailer now to know whether or not it's going to be on the hype meter or not.
Still would have loved to have seen Sacha Baron Cohen play the role.
Same.
But anyway, that's life.
Yeah, I feel Sacha's a good fit. But I feel like Rami Malek.
I don't know Rami Malek anywhere near as well. Does he have charisma? Because I mean, Freddie Mercury had an awful lot of charisma, and I felt that Sacha has a similar level of charisma and could have pulled it off.
Trying not to compare the roles, but have you seen the what is it? Night at the Museum?
Yes.
Yep.
He was Tutankhamun.
Oh my god, he was.
The Egyptian guy.
Been a long time.
Holy shit! I didn't even know that until just now.
And but like in Night at the Museum, he's really funny and he's really out there and shit. And then you see him Mr. Robot, and he's just like, existence is pain.
Yeah,
my life.
Yeah, he's so
like it's just
boring.
very like yeah, he's just very like it's just very like dark and twisted, and you're just like, what the fuck? Who is this guy?
Good.
But like the more I'm seeing, like when I saw that first photo, I'm like, I need more. Like, I need more to get behind this because I love Queen, I love Freddie Mercury. It's just this is going to be a very high bar, and I don't feel like it's meeting it so far for me.
Well, my issue was I'm still like I'm like you, but I think I'm even like less enthused just because for me all I've got is pictures, and I just keep looking at Rami Malek going, okay. But have you just been cast on looks alone? Like, did they just pick you?
I'm always less enthused because I'm a twisted old bitter man.
That's also true.
I mean, nothing.
And then Blade Runner comes out.
Yeah. Speaking of which, before you jump on to the next bit, Lucas, I noticed that because they were saying like it only made 35 mil opening weekend. That was North America only. I had a look at the opening weekend globally, and it was about 83 mil. And I noticed as of this week, or this weekend, as of last weekend, global takings were just over 151 million or something. So it's broke even.
Wow.
Fuck yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, obviously, like a lot of the time, they're only looking at North American figures, obviously, and so that's why. But I mean, like it's made its money back, and now it'll have another 2 or 3 weeks or whatever it is at the cinema where it'll make a bit more, and then it'll go on to home releases. Just quickly though, you saw it, Jesse. What did you think in a sentence, maybe 2?
Good, very good, very long. Oh my god, kill me too long.
Fair enough.
That was
very good.
Just so we can clarify, that was 5 sentences.
Yeah, that's fine.
That was one run-on sentence
with dramatic pause. And I watched all of Mindhunter on Netflix, which dropped, I think, on the 13th of October. And if you haven't seen that yet and you're looking for something to watch, definitely watch it. I went in knowing very little about it, had no expectations, and it didn't even need to be one of those ones where you get to the 2nd or 3rd episode for it to grab you. Like, it grabs you pretty quickly.
Is it a series based off of the Mindhunter movie starring Christian Slater?
No, thank God.
Oh, okay.
It's about the FBI learning to incorporate psychology and starting to interview serial killers and coming up with terminology and finding ways to predict patterns and all this sort of stuff.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's really interesting and it's done really well. The acting's pretty good, and it's interesting because we've said before about the Punisher comics, how she blows her head off with a shotgun, and how you would never get that on film. Well, there's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's no spoilers here. It's very early in the first episode, but there's a guy who shoots his head off with a shotgun, and the camera doesn't pull away. And I'm like,
Oh.
okay, well, maybe we will one day see that on film.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe Netflix aren't too afraid.
Yeah, but having said that, it's interesting. Like, apart from that, I think they put that in there to sort of really give you a shock. There's not a lot of swearing or nudity or anything. Like, it's pretty suitable for sort of 15 and up. Apart from that one or
Good
two
wholesome
scenes.
entertainment.
No, like, but it's just like, it's not the sort of thing you have to put on at 11 o'clock at night kind of thing. I would let my 15-year-old daughter watch it. So.
Oh, okay, cool.
But yeah, if you're looking for
15-year-old
something,
daughter watch a guy get his head blown off with a shotgun.
she's seen Rambo 1, 2, 3, and 4, mate.
Yeah, all right, she's cool.
Hard as fuck, mate.
Well, she's joining the army, so gotta get it ready. This is what it looks
okay.
like when your leg comes off, sweetie.
Oh shit.
Anyway, I just thought I'd stick that in before you move into your DCEU news, which looks really small.
Yeah.
All one
good.
of it.
Or one of it.
All one of it.
Yeah.
Well, there's only one piece of major news that's come out of the DC camp in the last 2 weeks.
Cool
And
for DC.
it was, yeah. No, well, I mean, it's better than hearing about an extended universe that's not really an extended universe, but they all exist within the same universe, but they don't because they're all separate.
Yeah.
Fucking shit. But, I think it was like an hour or two after we finished up recording last podcast.
Fortnight, yep.
They dropped the Justice League trailer and holy shit! Like,
I know. Why couldn't that drop the day before we recorded?
yeah. But I mean, it looks great. Like, I was always kind of like excited for it in a way because of like everything with Wonder Woman. Like, Wonder Woman to me is now the bar. But yeah, Justice League looks like it's going to be great. I feel like it's going to be in good hands with Joss Whedon, kind of finishing everything up for Snyder. And it doesn't look like Whedon has fully taken over. It looks like he's doing everything for Snyder the way Snyder would do it, which is
I was
great
going to
as
say
well.
that was what I was most impressed by of the trailer, because I was really hoping to not see it all Whedoned up, as much as I like him, because his style and Zack Snyder's style, if he tried to overpower Snyder's visuals and his sort of dark and gritty vibe, I think it'd come off as really like tonally confused, but it looks pretty good. Looks like they meshed it pretty well.
I'm a bit concerned with like a lot of Momoa's dialogue though.
So am I. He's such a fucking bro.
Yeah, like, too much. And the early trailers showed him sort of being really grumpy and all the rest of it.
And now he's like, hey,
and now,
man,
and it just not sure I would have gone that way, but okay,
No.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I feel
I
like
would
going the
know.
dark and gritty route with Aquaman, because with all the reports that are coming out
that
about
dark and
Aquaman
gritty is much
itself,
more
it's-
Snyder, isn't it? Than hey, bro.
Well, it is,
Yeah,
but
that's definitely Joss Whedon.
at the same time, though, like, I feel like the dark and gritty stuff for Aquaman should have kept going the way it was, because they've said that Aquaman's going to be more of like a horror film. Like, it's going to be, it's not going to be easy to sit through. Like, it's going to be something akin to like The Conjuring underwater.
Yeah, I liked the vibe that they set him up with, where they're like, he comes on the King Tide, and I was like, oh, it's like a mythological sort of vibe with Aquaman. This sounds like a good way of taking him. And now he's just like, hey, fully sick costume, man, like rock on.
He's like,
fuck,
he's like,
Aquaman.
ooh-ah, bro!
Yeah, and he's like literally jumping off of the Batmobile, like, woohoo!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
But I think that's in the term of like trying to make it more fun too. Like, Batman vs Superman got a lot of criticism for not being
and
fun.
now Warner Brothers.
But like, if you could tell that the heroes are enjoying themselves, even though they're like, about to face possibly a possible end of the world threat, they're gonna have fun while they're doing it. So.
Well,
I noticed when I've seen
worry.
documentaries of Gallipoli, as the guys are running towards the machine guns and
Yeah,
getting
they're
slaughtered, they're all going, woohoo, yeah, bro!
Yeah, all the people in Gallipoli were having a fucking blast.
Literally.
Literally.
That is, I mean, it's just, boo. I know, I'm a bad person. No, but the point is, like, yes, they're superheroes, and yes, it's an action flick, but I mean, why is it so ridiculous? It's not glorifying it. I'm not trying to blow that whistle. I'm just saying it's sort of, if they want to make, the only excuse for carrying on like that is if you're trying to defeat your own fear and nervousness of going into combat. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
in real life ourselves, like if you have a physical altercation pre and typically post, you'll try and start laughing it off and all the rest of it, because that's the way you deal with it and process it. So if that's the case, then you should be able to, in his acting, see that. You should be able to see that it's a load of wank because he's genuinely scared. But it's not like that at all. It's just woohoo. Well, anybody that woohoos into combat and doesn't care if they die has some deep-seated psychological problems.
You're becoming the opposite of Logan.
And people are now going to be saying you're reading far too much into it, dude. It's a superhero flick.
So meta.
I was going to say, even reading too far into it, like, he comes from a race of warrior people. Like, they get off on...
Yeah, but you don't see Wonder Woman who comes from a race of warrior people like going woohoo.
Yeah, dude, she totally jumped into battle, and like especially when she was like charging down that army in
but she
Germany.
She
was like
woohoo! Walking around
with
with massive grin on her face.
The only person that should be ever woohooing into battle is someone that's genuinely immortal, and in the DCEU, the closest you're going to get to that is Superman, and he never woohoos.
Like, Superman's so fucking dour and just disappointed in humanity all the time, apparently.
Well, I can't blame him. I mean, you got to consider the fact that we're super inferior to him in every way.
Oh yeah.
I mean, how would you feel being, superior to everybody? It'd be cool for the first week, and then it'd get really tiresome because no one's on your level.
How does that feel, Toby?
I know, right? I mean, this is why I've turned to alcohol.
Oh shit! Oh shit!
Anyway, so Blu-ray.
What are you guys' thoughts on the new Justice League trailer?
It's no Gallipoli.
Fuck.
Slapped some Mel Gibson in there and away we go.
Nah, if we put some Mel Gibson in there, I don't think that's going to go the way
Look,
that
to
we
be
all
to
think
be
it
to be
will.
perfectly frank, it seems to be getting sillier and sillier, and I mean, let's just stick West in there and wear fucking blue and grey. I mean, let's stop fucking around here. If we want silly, let's just go back to the 80s and 70s or whatever and
have fucking Burt Ward.
As Joker and all that. Like that. I mean, it's just getting
hilarious.
sillier and campier with every trailer, and that really, I mean, yeah.
I think it gets.
I will side with Toby on being crotchety with this because, it is getting too silly for me. Like, I love Joss Whedon, but like I said on a previous podcast about like Age of Ultron, I have a feeling that this is becoming a buddy cop, like Breakfast Club vibe movie now, like he always does with ensembles. And I'm really worried that they're gonna go way too far into the happy side because they're so desperately trying to steer away from dark and gritty. Yeah, I mean, I'm still excited for Justice League. The trailer that we got, I'm more excited for it than I was because I was very worried for it. But then Wonder Woman came out and I was like, oh, maybe there's hope because Wonder Woman was really good. But yeah,
I mean, here's the telling thing though: are you going to go see it at the cinema, or are you going to wait for home release?
Oh no, I'm going to see it at cinemas.
Okay.
I'm a DC fanboy. I have to.
Okay, all right. I mean, I'm home release on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like everyone knows that I might be a little bit more biased towards Marvel.
You're totally hyped. You're totally hyped for this film.
No, like every DC movie that's come out so far, I've been in the cinemas first day. Like I love I really want them to be competition. Like I really want them to, because competition always brings out the best in people and in businesses. And I feel like DC just aren't quite putting out the level of Marvel, but they're expecting that if they fast track things, that it will be at Marvel's level, which it won't. But like regardless, I'm going to be seeing it day one. Like there's no question about it.
Right.
Yeah, fuck Marvel.
Let's move into Marvel. Speaking of which, because we're getting behind time here, so talk really quickly.
There's a couple of like real kind of quick bits of news, and that's probably, in my opinion, the biggest piece of news is that Gambit is still on for 2019. Channing Tatum's still involved. His production company is all still involved. There was a bit of a fallout where we didn't know if Channing Tatum was going to be on board or not, and it sounds like it's full steam ahead now.
Do we know what sort of
just a matter of awaiting production?
Do we know what version of Gambit they're going to represent, like from which particular sort of series of comics? Because there's different personalities to him depending on which comic you read.
The New Orleans one.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think a lot of this is going to be based in New Orleans because they've said that they're going to be taking a lot of steps from his backstory with the whole Cajun thing.
Yeah.
And they're going to put him in New Orleans, where like basically a lot of his good solo stories came from, and then he might hook up later on with the rest of them.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, at the moment, this is kind of going to be kind of in the same vein as the New Mutants, where it's outside of the universe, but it's inside the universe. Like it's still an X-Men film, but it's like it's its own thing.
He's doing the DC treatment.
Yeah, and speaking of New Mutants, we'll kind of knock it out now. What do you guys think of the New Mutants trailer? I know Toby had some opinions on it.
I just think, well, I mean, all the marketing has it listed as just New Mutants, and that's, I think, the smart play, but its official title is X-Men New Mutants, and I think that's a mistake. I think they need to be distancing themselves from the X-Men name as much as possible, because if they're going to do a horror film or a horror-style film, which is not your traditional X-Men action flick, what's going to happen is inevitably you're going to have people who enjoy the X-Men films and they're going to go, oh, it's an X-Men film, and they're going to grab their popcorn and then they're going to sit down to this film and they're going to go, the fuck is this? And then it's going to get negative reviews. And it's not going to be because it's a bad film, it's just not going to be the film that people are expecting. And I think that they need to, the marketing team behind this film, have some work to do.
Well, I mean, as somebody who watched the trailer going like, oh, this is an X-Men horror film. I was sitting there going, what?
Yeah,
What?
exactly. And that's because you're thinking X-Men, and that's exactly what. Like,
Exactly.
you need to be thinking this is a horror film, not this is an X-Men horror film. And
Yeah, you need to not think of the context and just think of the genre.
yeah, exactly. And that's going to come back on the marketing team, and you know, they need to make sure that they get it right, because otherwise it's going to tank, not because of whether it's a good film or not because of whether people like it or not, but because people will get confused and they're going to go, this is not an X-Men film, and then they're going to be post-release trying to go, of course it's not an X-Men film, it's, you know what I mean, and that's too late.
It's New Mutants, and then do like the la da da.
Yeah, and that's too late at that
And then they'll
stage.
put a lot of songs in it, and it'll become Suicide Squad.
But I mean, I've been following the production of this pretty closely because I've been very interested in how they're going to take a New Mutant storyline. And like, I know that Josh Boone said from the outset, this will be a horror movie. It's not going to be like any other X-Men movie that's been out there. So I've kind of already had that pre-existing knowledge of it not being.
Yeah, but
like
I mean, you're
everything that's come
following it
before
closely. I'm talking about the average
that's what I
popcorn
mean, like-
cinema person. They need to know.
Well, yeah,
No one like us.
that's kind of what I was saying as well. Like, I know that people that will probably follow it closely will know it's a horror movie, but I think, I think moving away from the X-Men name will be smart to distance itself from what's come before it.
Yeah.
But I still feel like these characters are going to pop up later on in the X-Men movies, and I think that's what they're more prepping for.
That's
Is
cool,
that
but I would just
these
put,
are-
I mean, I would just change it, like, on your movie poster, you should just put, you know, from the team that brought you X-Men, for instance, New Mutants.
Or
that way you're still using that
something
X-Men...
about it being in the X-Men universe.
Yeah, I mean, you're just using that X-Men buzzword still to obviously... Because that's why it's there. It's because you do want to lure people into the cinema. So but instead of saying, you know, X-Men New Mutants, just put, you know, from the team that brought you X-Men. That way you go like, hey, cool, I like those
the
movies.
X-Men buzzword for Logan, and look how that did.
Yeah, but they didn't need to.
Exactly, because everyone knew who
Fucking
Logan was.
Logan.
But that's
Yeah,
what
well,
I mean, though, is that when
that's
this
kind of like the
trailer
New Mutants,
dropped...
though. No one knows who the New Mutants are. Like, these are all fresh characters that have never been seen in the Marvel universe before. So they kind of like need to have that word association of these are tied to the X-Men universe. That's where that X-Men buzzword comes in, and that's where it kind of comes in the marketing. But like, again, you'd only
Catch-22.
really. Yeah, sorry.
It's sort of a catch-22. It's like you're putting the X-Men in there so people go, oh, hey, okay, now I know who these people are. But then at the same time, you're generating an expectation when you say X-Men.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway.
Cool. Moving on. So the next kind of big piece of news as well, in regards to like what's happening, what the go is they've just announced a new guy for the Venom movie.
Right.
Which his name is Scott Hayes. He hasn't really done too much, but he's coming in as another undisclosed role.
Okay.
So they're kind of like
excited for.
Yeah. So like everyone that's been cast so far outside of Tom Hardy, like we have no idea who anyone is. There's the big rumor that not Rami Malek, what's his name? Riz Ahmed
I know who they
from
are.
Rogue One and the Night of. Apparently he's going to be playing Carnage.
I know who they are.
Who?
They're all Venom.
That's what I was gonna say.
We are Venom. Great minds.
But yeah, like there's a lot of no one really knows who anyone's going to be playing yet. So
neither do the actors still haven't figured
will be playing,
I wonder if the actors and the directors have figured out who's playing what yet.
Yeah, they're still trying to figure it out.
We're just hiring some
Well,
people, but we're not sure
together.
why.
well,
They're still
the clock's
writing
ticking
the
though,
script.
because the clock's ticking though, because now we're just under a year out from that coming out too. Because that's due to come out, I think, in like the 18th of October or something.
It is Sony, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
See,
Sony.
that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah. yeah. Well, I mean, if they're kind of like taking notes from Marvel on how to make Homecoming and
Yeah.
you know how to work with Spider-Man, like I'm assuming they'll be using those notes to move it over to Venom and Black Cat and Silver Sable and whatever else they're doing. But
There's something you didn't put on the list. And it's huge.
what did we add to the list?
Heroes for Hire.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Because it's official.
Yeah, fuck it.
It's official.
Let's talk about that. yeah. Because I only saw about it yesterday, I think. So
Yeah.
that's because I'd already written the news up like
Yeah.
late,
So for those
earlier.
that don't know, Iron Fist is got a pretty big part in Luke Cage season 2, and it's been confirmed that they will be playing the part of Heroes for Hire. That's great. I mean, you're so going to get the girls team as well, right?
Yeah, Daughters of the Dragon.
Yeah.
We got to. Like,
you got
we
to
have
now.
now.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like Misty and Colleen, I think are both going to be in Luke Cage. So
Yeah.
you know, I think it's a matter of just kind of.
Oh, that'd
you
be
know,
awesome.
and Misty-
Imagine if it's the Daughters of the Dragon and Heroes for Hire, and they're both like out there, and it's like this sort of friendly rivalry. You know,
Well,
like,
like they've got like,
yeah, like Gimli and Legolas kind of thing. Like, yeah, we killed this guy. Yeah, well,
They
we
got a
locked this
tally.
guy up. Like, yeah, how good would that be?
I just feel like Luke Cage season 2 is going to have too many moving parts because if they're going to do Heroes for Hire, and then they're also going to do I can't remember what his name is now. The name's escaping me at the minute, but the villain that they've got like 3 villains already, and then they do Daughters of the Dragon on top of that. Like Luke Cage is going to be like very packed.
Yeah, it might be too packed. But then
Yeah,
again, I mean,
so-
look at Luke Cage season 1. I mean, with 13 episodes, there was definitely some slow parts. You know, with 13 episodes, you could fit a lot in there. I mean, they're all near hour long, so.
Yeah.
It's not like Defenders where you were sort of you wanted to bang through it pretty quickly, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, one of those things we'll have to wait for.
Yeah.
And speaking of the Netflix stuff as well, and we're going to have to talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
Punisher.
Yeah.
We have a-
train.
We have a release date.
As
Officially.
Lucas would say, I'm hyped.
When have I ever said I've been hyped for anything?
He's copping so much shit for being excited about stuff.
I know.
I'm just an excited fanboy. Leave me alone.
I'm like Snoke. You see, I just feed off his excitement.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Oh shit.
I'm an excitement vampire.
Toby the space vampire.
Yay! Yeah, and we've got a date of November 17th, which is great.
Yeah.
Which is good because
Yeah.
I'm not at PAX.
Conveniently.
Conveniently. Did anybody else feel
Kind
though
of-
that trailer? They really dialed back the guns a lot.
Yeah, well, again, kind of coming back off the back of
Vegas,
Vegas,
yeah.
like, you know, as unfortunate as that is, like, I feel like they kind of had to. We got a lot of story beats, which, like,
Which is
I
nice.
find that that's what they. But like at the same time, I find that a lot of like last trailers, that's when the story beats start to come out. Like everything is like, oh, look at how pretty everything is, and then when they get to like, as you know, as close as possible, they're like, all right, cool, let's drop some story shit.
Yeah.
You know, we see it with Star Wars. We've seen it with you know, majority of the DC movies. Like, see it with a couple of the Marvel movies as well, outside of Guardians of the Galaxy. But a lot of the movies tend to do it. So I think it's less about what happened in Vegas and more of that.
Yeah.
That's just become the industry standard.
I'm
now.
just hoping that they.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as I can sympathise with what happened in Vegas, of course, I just hope they don't edit the show itself. I think that would be. You know, this is the opportunity for this character who's never been played properly to be played properly, and I hope they just don't shy away from it because they're worried about, you know, public backlash or
Yeah.
something.
Like, I feel like I understand what you're saying, because I was thinking the same thing. You know, as tragic as those events were, it seems like it's a case of just of bad timing as well. And I sympathize with Netflix wanting to, you know, redesign their trailers, but at the same time, yeah, like, you don't want them to sacrifice what they've already tried to do with the character because of events that were out of their control as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it would. I mean, John Berntham obviously pushed so hard to have this be true to the book, so it would be sad for them to dial it back at the last minute. But I guess we'll see.
I feel like that at the same time though. I feel like that would be a lot of work.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, we'll watch the first episode and we'll know. But I'm sure we'll know by the end of the first episode. Black Panther.
Yeah. So the last kind of major trailer that we got as well, probably the biggest one of the Marvel trailers was a surprise drop of Black Panther. Kind of came out of nowhere, but man, I know. I know. Like last time, I think Toby might have a bit of a say about it, but
it's funny because I'm usually the guy that's so laid back about these sort of topics. But I feel the soundtrack in the trailer is just like Luke Cage. Season 1 had a fantastic, African American soundtrack because it was suited to the series, and it was great. There was some. I mean, I know a lot of people, myself included, went away and googled a lot of those songs and added them to their playlist. Like there was some great tracks, and I'm not saying that the music that they've used in the soundtrack is bad. I mean, the group, I can't remember their name off the top of my head, but they're. Sorry.
So the first one was the first trailer had Run the Jewels in it.
Yeah.
And then the second trailer was Vince Staples.
Yeah, like they're not bad tracks, but they're African Americans. They're not Africans, and I had this debate with someone online, and I gave plenty of examples of perfectly good African rappers and hip hop artists that are doing comparable work. But I mean, the differences in sounds, if you listen to it, the nuances, there are traditional instruments that they sort of blend in with their music. And I just think, like, it just seems odd. Like, why would you not use African music? And I'm not talking about like, village, tribal music kind of stuff. I mean, modern African music. There's still plenty of, as I said, really heavy hip-hop R&B kind of stuff coming out of Africa, and some of it's, like, I've listened to is really, really good, and it just seems odd that they're not using that.
As far as I'm concerned, there's only one song that's sufficient.
You're not using it, that's cultural appropriation or something, and you'll get set alight for that. You can't do that.
Oh, come on, it's such a good song. How great would it have been?
But I mean, if you play Bless the Rains down in Africa, I mean, you're
would have been great.
You're just going to get every lawsuit ever in your face. No, like, seriously though, like I said, I very rarely get involved in any form of sort of modern, social politics at all. I tend to avoid it. I'm too old, I don't care. But yeah, that was just one thing I just sort of struck a chord with me, and I'm like, okay, well, you've set, obviously Netflix really have set a precedence though, where it's like, hey, we're going to use appropriate music for this culture. Cool, that's a great idea. And then it's like, and here's Black Panther not doing that.
I think at the same time, it's like
sounds that someone high up was like, he's black, right? So let's just have rap music.
Look, I'm certainly not gonna. I mean, I'll wait till I've seen the film because I know that the score in trailers is. I mean, those trailers, most trailers are outsourced to separate companies completely who just do trailers, and so those trailers are not necessarily a sort of like an early access. I mean, it's not a representation of the final product. It's just to give you a teaser. So I mean, I'll wait for the final film, and I'm confident that final film will have probably, at least in part, a much more appropriate, soundtrack.
And moving on to the last two pieces.
Short, Black Panther looks good.
Yes. Moving on to the last two pieces of news though. Real quick one. Avengers: Infinity War got a new logo. Looks pretty cool. Yeah. I'm okay with it. Nothing too major. And then the other one, we're not going to talk about it, but for those who have not seen the Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo interview on the project, do not watch it. They drop a huge Ragnarok spoiler. Like, one of the hosts asked Chris Hemsworth a question about a specific event in the film, but just kind of throws it out there as if it's nothing, and then Chris Hemsworth just
winces.
Looks like he's ready to get Norse mythology rage and just be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Hey.
Now Chris Hemsworth has been fired.
No, it wasn't Chris Hemsworth that dropped it. It was Tommy Little, who's one of the hosts of the project. So he went to the premiere and said, "Hey, so this thing in the movie happens. Can you tell us about it?" And then Hemsworth's like, "You're a fucking idiot." Like,
well, he's not. Hell? No, he's not like that. I mean, they both. I mean, they're both professional, and they both
Oh yeah, like,
they both laugh it off. But
I was bastardizing it to shit.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
But yeah, man, it's kind of bad. Like, he gets mad. Like,
well, I mean,
you watch his whole demeanor. You watch his whole demeanor change, and it's like, oh, some shit's about to go down.
Yeah, and then Ruffalo sort of just tides it over. Ex-nay. So anyway, it happens.
But yeah, that's pretty much it for the major news anyway for the last 2 weeks. So
Okay, then. Cool. Halloween and horror films, and what is good, what is not. I mean, shortcut, if you're thinking Stephen King, there's like these 3 articles on this website I know, or is it 4? All about Stephen King. Pixel Pop Network. And, I mean, why are we coughing when we're plugging our own website and our own podcast? I mean, yeah, look, that if you're looking for some Stephen King, like, Jesse's reviewed and scored every single Stephen King thing ever, so that's a great place to start. But for non-Stephen King stuff, should we just start with you know, the title film itself, Halloween, John Carpenter?
Yeah, probably.
Still a classic, still very watchable today.
Probably, arguably, the best slasher movie that's been made.
I'm gonna slightly argue. I actually, so like, as good as the original Halloween was, I think the Rob Zombie one was better.
It's not like let's be fair. It is very good, but at the same time, I think the reason why the remake is good in its own right is because it comes at it from a completely different angle. Like, it shows you, it explains how, it shows you, you know, how he became what he is and all the rest of it, and that's really interesting and it's cool.
No, I'm just kidding. It's totally fine.
It is. Although, and then he went and made the second one, and it just got worse and then worse. Like, Rob Zombie needs to stop.
Oh, I said nothing about the sequel.
He needs to. Well, it was sort of like
the first. Don't time into that shit.
The first one's great. Like I thought the first one was good, like you said, from the angle of coming at it, where we're getting an understanding of his psyche and where he's at mentally, and that he does why he does the things that he does. Second one, just fuck it off. But
yeah, it's like, did you enjoy my wife half naked in the first one? Here, have more of her on the screen.
It's just basically an excuse for Sherry just to get naked.
Pretty much. Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, it's good, and yes, I agree. Like, you can watch both and enjoy both. And then, yeah, but just in terms of remakes, stop at the end of the first one. Whereas, obviously, the originals, like, you can go straight into the second one. Third one, I mean, a lot of people hate the third one because it's completely off topic. Like, it's got nothing to do with Michael Myers.
Yeah,
I don't mind it.
I kind of respect it for that.
Yeah, I don't mind it. It's not a bad movie. It's enjoyable. But, I mean, if you just want Mike Myers 1 and 2 for the original, done.
I think Season of the Witch should kind of be commended for
trying
being one of the earliest films to try and set up anthology stuff.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, I don't mind it. I've watched it separately. Like, there's been times where I've sit down and I go, I'm in the mood for a horror film or whatever, and I've just gone straight to, you know, Halloween 3. That has happened.
And then if you don't want to watch that, you just watch Critters.
Well, I mean, there's never a wrong time to watch Critters.
There's never a bad
or
time. Or
Ghoulies, for that matter.
Oh, yeah, gotta have some bald toilet demons.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you're having a party for Halloween and you want some background shit that no one's really watching, like, you should be putting...
Don't watch Ghoulies.
You should be putting Critters on that list, you should be putting Ghoulies on that list, and you should be putting Leprechaun on that list. The sort of stuff...
We've created a list of movies that you're not even going to pay attention to.
Exactly, but they're still Halloween, like, they're still horror themes, so they're great for background white noise, yeah. I mean,
Halloween white
Jennifer
noise.
Aniston's throwing shoes at the Leprechaun because he has to stop and fix them.
Oh my god.
I think as well, like, there's probably another movie that we could add to this list that's fairly recent. It's not actually a Halloween film, but it's like a good, scary movie. And funnily enough, one of our people on this podcast has actually reviewed it, Get Out.
It is good.
I haven't seen it yet.
Do you reckon it's worthy of sitting in the like the echelon of, like, not necessarily Halloween movies, but movies to watch at Halloween if you want a good scare?
Yeah, I would, because it's got like a solid creepy vibe to it. Like, it's very unsettling to watch. It was one of the few movies I actually watched where I was sitting there going like, this is making me uncomfortable. Like, the way the tension was done slightly different.
Yeah, I really want to see it. Like, it's one I've got on like a list a mile long to watch, but everything that I've seen from, like, not only like people who have reviewed the film, but friends of mine that have seen it have all said it's awesome.
Stab.
It is pretty good. Is Toby imitating the basilisk from Harry Potter?
Yeah, oh yeah, you got me in one. You're so clever. It couldn't possibly be the Friday the 13th fucking mantra.
Yeah,
it's
Chamber of Secrets.
Well, Jason Voorhees, right? I mean, like, Friday the 13th again, like, classic series. you know, real.
The only good one is Jason Lives.
You mean Jason in space, right?
Oh yeah,
Jason
of course,
10.
Jason.
Jason 10. Jason 10 is the greatest Friday the 13th of all time, and I will fight anyone that says
Oh,
otherwise.
come on, no. In Jason Lives, he walks on top of a fucking truck. Like,
Jason 10, he gets like
In
a
outer
fucking... He not only out of space, but he gets so mangled that he ends up in like something, I can't even think of what it's called, but like the thing from Alien where in Prometheus, how they like repair them.
Oh yeah,
And he becomes like half metal.
Yeah.
And like just goes insane.
It's
His
abominably
hockey mask
bad
gets
and
fused to
terrible.
his face.
But I mean,
it's so
the first
It's so fucking awful.
The first 2 or 3 are pretty good, and certainly if you're watching the first one, like the cool thing is with a lot of these movies, you know, they're all filmed in the early 80s, and you'll see some actors in there and you're like, is that, oh my god, that's like an 18-year-old version of, you know, some guy I know now, right?
Oh my god, that's Leo DiCaprio in his first role ever.
Oh my god, what is Kevin Bacon doing as a camp counselor?
Exactly, like, yeah, you want to see 18-year-old Kevin Bacon, like, this is where you find it, right? It's cool, and they're not like super scary. I mean, I mean, if you want scary, I mean, a lot of people still get upset with the original Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, and you've got to put it in the right context. And I have a nephew, and when he was, I don't know, 16 or something like that, and we were talking about Nightmare on Elm Street because his father, my brother-in-law, won't watch it. And he's like, oh, that movie's not scary, I've seen it. I said, yeah, it's not scary when you're sitting around with half a dozen of your mates in broad daylight. I put it on the TV, but I had all the lights off in the house, and it's just Nightmare on Elm Street, the original, on the TV, and nothing else. And here's this you know, bravado teenager who's, you know, nothing is scary, and had teased his younger brother for being scared of horror films. And he's sitting there with this blanket, and it's right up under his eyes, and he's just like, screw this film, man, screw this film, it's too scary. And then so, because I said he'd teased his younger brother about it, so after he finished watching this thing and scared the shit out of him, you know, he's gone back downstairs and gone to bed, and my brother-in-law has gone outside with like the garden tool, and he's scratching the bedroom window of the boy's window.
No,
Yeah, and then he'd run back inside, sit on the couch again, and watch TV, and then my nephew comes out and says, did you hear this thing? And he's like, what are you talking about? Don't be a little, you know, whatever.
Don't be a little bitch.
Yeah, get back into your room. Yeah, like Nightmare on Elm Street, like even just doing the music, if you play the music from it, like people's hair stands up on end because it just, like, it has an effect.
It is a great thing.
Yeah, I think though now, like, I've shown it to my daughter, and it didn't have anywhere near the effect, and I think it's just because, you know, the visual effects are starting to look so dated and all the rest of it. Like we are now at a point where it's dated.
Yeah,
you know?
It's not aging well anymore.
No. So, and obviously, you know, stuff that was scary 20, 30 years ago, you know, times have changed. You know, kids these days are watching, you know, like Hostel with people getting, you know, drills in the eyeball and stuff.
Well, I was about to say Hostel's probably one. Hostel and Saw were actually movies I was going to bring up.
Yeah.
Like,
They're not horror though, they're gore. And
no, they're not even horror. They're not horror. They're not gore films. They're torture porn. Like,
yeah.
like,
I don't like watching those films. I mean, they do to me what they're supposed to do, and they make me feel very uncomfortable. And I get that's the whole point. You know, I don't enjoy that though. I like being frightened. I don't like being grossed out, if that makes sense.
I'm with you on that. I will stand behind Saw 1, and
because it's fucking clever. It's so cool.
because it's a well-crafted movie.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of like thing I say to everyone. Like Saw 1, I think is probably one of the best. It's the most well-crafted stories.
Yeah, but I would classify Saw 1
for a horror film. And
I wouldn't even put it as horror. To me,
like,
Saw 1 is a thriller.
Yeah, it is.
Psychological thriller, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thriller, yeah.
Talking about
the horror, but I think the horror element comes from like, fuck, they're gonna have to saw their legs off. You know, that guy just got a fucking shotgun blast to the head out of nowhere.
That's still thriller, though. That's still thriller. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the scariest things I've seen, and I mean, talking about more recent stuff, and for me, it's, I mean, I've seen a lot of horror films. I mean, as a teenager, back when we had VHS, you know, I went up to the video library and just systematically started at A and went all the way through to Z over a period of like years. More recently, though, the stuff that still manages to get my hair to stand on end was Woman in Black with Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah, that is a good one.
And
I got a funny story about Woman in Black to tell you.
I think it's the what's the one I'm thinking of? It's the the Conjuring. Is it the Conjuring where it's
Conjuring?
They playing the clapping game in the hide and seek. Is that the one I'm thinking?
Yes, that's the Conjuring one.
Yeah, I just got goosebumps thinking about that right now. Like that those two films got it right.
I gave The Conjuring a 100% last year, I think. But I don't know if I reviewed it on Pixel Pop, but that was my score. It was like my only A+ for the year.
Right.
I thought I don't think it could have done anything better.
Yeah, I thought Conjuring. I think they're both great. I haven't seen any of the spin-offs because I know there's Annabelle and then there's
Annabelle Creation is arguably much better than Annabelle.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to sit down and watch Annabelle yet, but
it's probably
I want to.
Is in it.
Yeah. See, I mean, for me too, like The Woman in Black. I mean, it's very much. I mean, I've read the story too. It's very much a Lovecraft themed story. Like, it's very Lovecraftian. And they capture that really well. It's that am I going insane and the slow building tension. And the most important thing for a horror film is pacing. And I feel a lot of horror films get that wrong. You know, you need you want that long build.
Don't blow your load
too soon. Exactly. Yeah, pacing is definitely one of, if not the most important things when telling a horror story. Yeah, definitely. And the other thing is don't show too much. You know, the original Alien is considered a successful horror film because you never really get to see the alien. Like, it's got tiny amount of screen time.
Which is why I always say to people that Aliens is a war film and not a horror film.
Absolutely, it's a science fiction action film.
Yeah, it's so not themed under horror at all.
No, and I don't think it was ever meant to be.
No, not at all. Like, James Cameron doesn't really do horror movies.
No. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, so that's the other thing. Like, I know a lot of people didn't understand or didn't enjoy the original Blair Witch Project. I did. And I watched that Alone in the Dark. And, that thing was scary because it allowed it... Especially if you've ever done role-playing, like tabletop role-playing or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's all about using your imagination to fill in the blanks.
The sound design of Blair Witch, I think, was its best aspect.
You're always going to, like you've all heard the saying, you're always afraid of what you don't understand. And if that's the thing, and I've said this about Pennywise as well before, it's when you start explaining something too much, or when you reveal too much, it stops being scary because you can use logic and all the rest of it to shut it down. It's when you don't know what's in the dark that it's more terrifying,
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, so don't show everything. Is the other thing. Let the audience use their imagination to fill in the gaps. But I think the problem is today is most films just tend to assume that everyone's a moron and we have to show you and we have to explain it.
Yeah, I think Blair Witch is one of the few horror movies that I've not actually seen, and that's only because I've kind of got this unrealistic level
unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, because everyone talks about how it's probably one of the best horror movies of the 90s.
But a lot of people will tell you it's terrible. That's the other thing. A lot of people will say, because if they don't have an imagination, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, it's just one of those things. Not everybody has a
Toby tells everyone they're stupid.
No, not at all. No. Like, some people just inherently have an imagination, and other people don't. And I'm just saying, that sort of person wouldn't get the same value out of a movie like Blair Witch Project that someone who is more inclined to flights of fantasy would. That's all. Lucas, what are some of your favorite horror films?
I mean, in the sense of what's been able to get me to jump and shit. We've kind of already talked about a few of them. The original Nightmare on Elm Street surprisingly didn't actually get me. I saw that at 13, and the part where he cuts his stomach open. I busted up laughing.
Right. Yep.
I busted up laughing. One that we haven't talked about, which I'm surprised hasn't come up yet, I think it's probably one of the most influential horror films, Evil Dead.
Which one are we talking about, though? Here?
I'm talking old school. I'm not
the original.
The 2013 one was good.
Yeah.
It wasn't great.
Yeah.
But the original Evil Dead movies are fantastic. The second one is obviously where it started to get very kind of out there and outlandish and weird. But real hammy. But it wasn't hammy in a bad way, in my opinion.
No, it was still enjoyable.
I still love the second one as much as I love the first one.
But they're very different films.
They are very different films. Like, it's very hard to.
Having said that, though, you can easily go from the first one to the second one, whereas the first one takes itself seriously and the second one doesn't, because by the time the second one comes around, our lead character is now completely insane.
That's true as well.
That's why it can be funny.
That's all. There's also that comparison of like, this is what happened in the first movie, but like that whole like thing where they're telling you everything that happened in the first movie. A lot of that didn't happen. Like, it happened a completely different way.
Yeah. But I mean, so the simple argument is,
but that comes off the idea of him being like crazy, and we're seeing the story from his perspective. So that's how he remembers it.
Yeah, he just loses the fucking plot, which you would.
But yeah,
it's one of the first movies to use that unreliable narrator mechanic.
Yeah. But I mean, like, outside of Evil Dead, like, the original Nightmare on Elm Street, maybe the first two, I thought I didn't think 2 was as good, but I think 2 is still a pretty good movie.
Did Exorcist get you?
Ooh, yeah.
Never seen it.
Exorcist is still rated R today. Like,
Exorcist, I think, will stand the test of time. It's just an all-time great horror movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, like, I'm not religious at all. But when you start bringing in things like the devil and unholy iconography and stuff, man, I do get goosebumps from that.
So do I, yeah.
Shit.
It's
like,
it's something that inside you, like, shouldn't be messing with that shit.
Yeah, like, I watched, what was it? There was another one I watched. I think it's like The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Exorcism of Emily Rose.
And she waffles off all these sort of demonic names of who are possessing her. Like, that just flipped me out. Like, I'm familiar with those names, and I'm just like, wow, you are a carnival. Like, you are just full of like some of the nastiest things ever.
The traveling Wilburys of demons.
Pretty much. And it's like that. Like, you're like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like,
another Oh, sorry to jump in. I was thinking just before another kind of modern horror movie that, like, I'd say it's horror because it is in a sense. But when you watch it, you'll know that it's not. Insidious.
Insidious, I love.
Yeah.
Dude,
my daughter watched that one. That messed her up. She doesn't want to watch that again.
James Wan is so good at creepy imagery.
Yes.
Have you seen Dead Silence?
Yes, I quite like Dead Silence as well.
Dead Silence is heavily underrated. I think, like, coming off the back of Saw, like, you needed to have a movie, and I feel like the whole, like, that last 20 minutes, like, was like. They were like, all right, cool, so this can be the movie. Like, and he puts the movie to them, and they're like, but where's the twist? Like, where's the
only beef with Insidious?
Where's the Saw twist? Like,
my only beef with Insidious is later in the film they show too much of the demon. Like, when they enter his lair and all that sort of stuff, and then it's like, this is a guy in makeup. Like, you know what I mean? I liked it when it was just, there's a flick of the camera and you see him standing in the corner of the room or whatever, and you're like, what the fuck is that? Like, that's what...
though, Insidious 2 is even better than Insidious 1 because of just how clever it is with the really cool twists that it has.
Yeah, it's like a retelling of the first one, so to speak.
Before we jump into that, I haven't actually seen the second or the third ones yet. I have every intention to watch them.
Okay.
I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
The
first one, man, was
has really
amazing.
nothing to do with the first two, from memory.
The third one is okay, but it didn't...
The third one's new characters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember hearing.
Oh, here's another one that put goosebumps up all over me, but it only sort of works the first time you watch it, and that's the original Paranormal Activity.
Have never seen it, will never see it. Next.
That'll fuck you up. That'll fuck you up.
Really?
Have never seen it, will never see it.
Yeah, because it's that whole Blair Witch thing where it's relying on your imagination, because you never get to see anything really. It's all a case of.
Honest to God, yeah.
Like like, you know, when the sheet comes off and the leg moves and that's just like, you can't tell me when she gets dragged up that corridor, you're not like, what the like that.
I actually went to the cinema to watch every Paranormal Activity movie,
right? And
every time I went to see them as like the run was ending, just so I could sit in the cinema and laugh as loud as I wanted to.
Really? Okay, fair enough.
I fucking hate them so much. But I was actually going to say, I don't know how many people agree with me, but one of my absolute favorite movies of all time that's always gets under my skin is Mothman Prophecies.
Dude, yes.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
The main thing
that's
from
Richard Gere and Julia Roberts, right?
No, Richard Gere and Laura Linney.
Laura Linney, that's right.
The one part of that movie that still to this day freaks me out when I hear it is just the way that I can't remember his freaking name, but he's in the Punisher movie, Toby, with John Travolta. He plays
Thomas Jane.
John Travolta.
Thomas Jane, yeah.
No, the guy that plays John Travolta's right hand man.
Oh, yeah.
But him, like, there's that one scene in Mothman Prophecies where he's in a hardware store talking to Richard Gere, and he goes, I woke up at night and I went to my bathroom and I hear this howl coming out of the sink and this voice, and I was like, that still to this day freaks me out. Like that.
It's like that line. There's
head.
nothing more beautiful than the sound of a baby laughing, except at night, at 3 a.m, and you don't have a child.
Exactly.
Was it Will
Mothman
Patton?
Prophecies is great.
Will Patton, was that his name?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I never remember that guy's name.
Bald with a mustache, right?
Yeah.
Or balding with
He's
a
a
mustache.
really good actor.
Yeah. The other one is an old one, but because I don't want to touch on things like The Shining, because again, read the articles for Stephen King stuff. But of course, the other one would be Omen, which was another big series.
That's Damien, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put it down, Damien. Yeah.
Those movies are sick.
Yeah. They're worth looking at. Another one, if you like, it's not as campy as, and there's a lot of these in the 80s, it's not as campy as sort of the Ghoulies or Critters. The Phantasm series is quite good.
Yes, the tall man and his little ball of death.
Yeah. Poor Reggie never gets the girl. Like, they're enjoyable. Fright Night, the original Fright Night is quite good, worth checking out.
Yeah, I was going to say Fright Night's great. Chris Sarandon, whatever his name is.
Yeah,
really
I enjoyed that.
Even the remake's okay.
It's okay.
The remake's not bad.
Yeah,
that's got Tennant in it, right?
Yeah, and
Colin
he
Farrell.
doesn't fit in there very well. He doesn't play the part anywhere near as well as old mate from the original.
I don't know who the fuck cast David Tennant as him. Like, I love David Tennant, but what the hell were they thinking picking him from Roddy McDowall's character?
Yeah, don't know.
And as well, like, these aren't really scary, but these are like Halloween style movies that, like, best part about these movies is like you could watch these with your kids. Like, because there's a part of me that kind of that loves like the kids.
Monster House.
Like,
Monster House has got some serious fucking fucked up scenes in it that shouldn't be seen by kids. Like, yeah, I watched it and I'm watching this with my kid, going, might turn this off now. Like, I think it's when they fall in the basement or something of the house, and I'm like, and it just got like really dark, and I'm like, we should turn this off about here.
Well, the ones I was actually going to say in the regards to like watching them with like the family and stuff was stuff like Casper, Addams Family, Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, of course, Ghostbusters, because I mean, Stranger Things season 2, the kids cosplay or dressed up as Ghostbusters.
Yeah, man. Yeah, because it's all set in 1984, so
Exactly.
it's like at the height of that Ghostbusters kind of thing. But like, and Addams Family as well, man. Like, it's not, again, that's not one that's really a horror movie, but it's definitely a Halloween movie where like you can put it on and everything's creepy and stuff, and
kooky.
Yeah, creepy and kooky and mysterious and spooky. Yeah,
please no one sing that song to me.
Yeah,
I don't know about Casper. I never could dig Casper at all. Like,
neither could I.
I just want to punch him in the face. Like, he just annoys me. He reminds me of like Tweety Bird.
Fuck
like,
off,
he's just this smug little shit that you just want to smack in the face.
Tweety Bird.
And probably one we could argue as to whether or not it's a Halloween movie or it's a Christmas movie, but Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, it fits a couple of holidays.
Yeah, so you watch it in November. You watch it for Thanksgiving if you're in America.
Watch it in the middle.
Yeah, it's Thanksgiving if you're in America. Yeah, it's a Thanksgiving film.
Well, what about werewolf movies? Because I know everyone's going to say American Werewolf in London, but has anyone seen Late Phases?
Nah.
But then again, has anybody seen The Company of Wolves?
Yes.
Oh, now that's a little niche title that's worth digging out, because it's based on a couple of books, a series of short stories, and that has some really... It's a retelling of Little Red Riding Hood, essentially. But obviously, you know, the wolves are not normal wolves, like they're werewolves. Yeah. And it has some really... It's sort of like Anne Rice kind of did the definitive vampire lore, and I can't remember her name who wrote the book, but it's sort of almost like she didn't quite have the same success, but was sort of doing the same thing with werewolves, because she did a lot of stuff with werewolves, and it's sort of like the definitive lore of sort of werewolves, and there's the wolves on the outside, which are perfectly fine, and then there's the wolves on the inside that you need to be afraid of. And some of those transformation scenes, even like back then, and the thing is too, today it's only like rated RPG or M. Like, the transformation scenes are pretty graphic. Like he melts and stuff. Like, it's pretty nasty. But it's definitely worth it. It's got Angela Lansbury in it as the grandmother, which he couldn't have casted better if you tried. Like, she's the perfect grandmother. It's absolutely worth a watch. It's a great film. I doubt it's streaming anywhere, but I mean, you can probably pick it up on DVD for about $2.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it'd be like Flowers in the Attic kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll find,
but it's
like,
a
$7
really
maybe.
good film. I mean, their production value was, they didn't have the biggest budget, so they ended up using like German shepherds with talcum powder on them in certain scenes. They couldn't afford like one real wolf, but it's really well done, and I like the sets and everything else for it. So there's one to watch. Company of Wolves. Look out for men with one eyebrow.
Well, with Late Phases, it's a werewolf movie as well. I guess it's kind of campy, but it's basically about a blind army veteran who goes into a retirement community, and there's werewolves like prowling the retirement community, and he's the only one that's like beginning to notice that these attacks are really weird. And so he starts like prepping to kill these werewolves, and he's just like the most badass blind dude in the world. And he never uses a cane; he just uses this this big friggin' shovel.
Right. I mean, probably the biggest franchise for right or wrong would be Howling. I think for werewolves.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, which I think weren't some of them made in Australia.
Yeah, Marsupials, Howling 3.
Marsupials.
That's stupid.
That's terrible.
Going back to the blind man thing real quick, you guys are going to have to remind me of the name. You probably already know what it is. What was that one with the blind guy that just come out? Like, it was either this year or last year. With the home invaders.
Oh, Don't Breathe.
Yes, I really want to see that. Like, that's...
It's
again,
not bad.
not really a horror movie, but it's more of like a thriller.
Are we allowed to put...
Kinda...
Are we allowed to put Lost Boys as a horror film?
Yes.
I was thinking that,
Yeah,
actually.
fuck yeah.
I mean, we want to talk about
80s movie.
If you want to talk about vampires, and I mean, sure, you've got Interview with a Vampire and all that sort of stuff, which again, I really wouldn't put as a horror film.
Well, what's scarier than children going missing? Have you seen this boy?
Yeah. What's scarier
Vampires.
than Echo and the Bunnymen's cover of People Are Strange?
Eating maggots.
Oh yeah, that's such a good movie. Another good vampire movie is Near Dark.
Yes, with the late Bill Paxton. Yeah.
And Lance Henriksen.
Yeah.
Such a good movie.
The vampire movie I didn't like when I initially
Twilight.
saw it, that
Yeah,
I came to
funny
love
that.
over time, was
Twilight.
Twilight is one of the greatest films ever.
Can you just get off?
10 out of 10.
Where's the
You know
new-
what? It's a perfect 5 out of 7.
You know what?
Perfect 5 out of 7. The horror film I was actually going to say before Toby said I liked Twilight was 30 Days of Night.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that
sort
was
of like
a
Fargo
movie.
with vampires, right?
Dude, we saw that movie and I was not sober at the time. I was very drunk. And we were watching that movie and I was just busting up laughing through the whole thing, to the point where the people who were sitting like a couple of rows in front of us had to move further forward to get away.
See, these millennials at the cinema,
Oh man, aren't they the
fucking
worst?
drunk
they are the
Like,
worst.
I went back and I actually rewatched it not long ago. It was like a year or two ago, and I don't know why I was like shit talking it so much. Like, it was fantastic.
Because you're a millennial dick.
Yeah, that's fair.
Making people move in the cinema.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Let's wrap it up there. And Jesse, top 1 or 2 favorite horror films that aren't Stephen King? Oh no, you can throw Stephen King. You can throw King in. Out of all time.
To be fair, it's not that hard for me. I'm not a big fan of Stephen King horror films anyway.
Not
I'd
anymore.
say it's definitely my favorite of his.
Yeah. All right. So I mean, if you had to pick, say, like there's a Halloween movie night, and they say, Jesse, we want to watch 3 horror films. Which 3 horror films should we watch?
Oh geez. Okay. I'd probably say Halloween, just because it's a staple. I'd say The Exorcist, and probably 1408.
Okay. Out of left field.
Yeah,
Yeah.
way out of left field.
Yeah, well, it's just it creeps a lot of people out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, The Conjuring 2, because I think it's better than the first one.
Okay. All right. Well, whatever you choose to watch or not watch on Halloween, we
will
hope
not
you
be
enjoy.
held responsible
We'll
for.
not be held responsible. By the time
Whatever you do, don't play with Ouija boards. Those things just aren't meant to be played with.
Don't touch the Ouija boards.
So next weekend is obviously Stranger Things 2 season 2 premiere. Some of us will be at PAX, but by the time we come around to the next episode of the podcast, we'll have all watched it.
I was about to say, I think next podcast we're going to be very busy because also we got Ragnarok too.
Yeah, so we're going to have, that'll probably be the terms of topic of conversation is probably just going to be Thor and and Stranger Things, and they're both probably going to keep us busy for a while. And then the fortnight after that is Punisher weekend. So that's basically, there'll be some news for about half an hour, and then everyone else will leave the chat room, and then it'll just be me talking for about an hour about Punisher.
Listen, this is why Punisher was good.
This is why the Punisher is the best, and that is the end of the conversation. Yep.
And we'll just go out lunch.
There will be an accompanying PowerPoint presentation that will be uploaded to the podcast.
There will be a quiz.
And yes, and at the end there will be a quiz.
Anybody who gets it wrong will get shot. Yeah. If you've got any feedback, like if you've got some favourite horror films, for instance, let us know. This podcast will be on SoundCloud. It'll be on YouTube. It'll also be on the Pixel Pop Network website. You can also contact us through Facebook as well. So there's lots of places where you can reach out and talk to us. So please let us know what your favourite horror films are. And if you've got any suggestions for topics of conversation, we'd love to hear them, because we always run around like mad chickens 5 minutes before we go to air, figuring out what we should be talking about. So ideas are good.
To be a pie.
I don't like gravy.
Right, and with that, it's time to go to the theme music. Take us away, Jesse, this week. Fortnite, go.
Me?
Come on.